Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our discussion. And today, inshallah, we will be joined by our usual participants, Mobeen Bhai and Sultan Bhai, inshallah. And we will actually discuss something much in relation to the weather, actually, and what we have seen and how it was today. Um, both have already joined. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum, both of you.
Alaikum assalam warahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam.
Rahmatullah. How are you both? Didn't catch up last week.
Alhamdulillah.
Alright. Inshallah. That's great. So today, I was just literally explaining that let's discuss something about the weather. That's pretty much one thing which has been part of conversation for the last few days. And today, I don't know, how was it at both of yours places, but in our office there was quite a loud thunderstorm and obviously quite heavy rain as well. And alhamdulillah, and now it's a lot more, basically you don't mind weather like this in the summer. So it has changed from how it was for last 3-4 days. And we actually discussed it on Sunday as well, if you both would remember. And indeed, it is great great mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many ways. So, I'll just start with the reference of what we discussed now as Sunday circle, that indeed, the wind and wind works as obviously a basically carrier of good news for those people who look forward to the rain. And obviously you feel that once the clouds start to come and once the weather is getting better, the wind is the main thing which is work. And obviously we all know that how the different wind channels throughout the world, they carry the clouds and then they move from one to the other place. So obviously, like it's like a whole process which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, and we have witnessed it quite firsthand, over the last 3-4 days or pretty much whole week, how it was way too hot because the heat wave was being carried all the way from the Africa to here, obviously through the winds, and now again we are getting these clouds which are coming over, and they're rain quite heavily today. So all these are indeed great signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mercy of Him, really, that He sends the winds as a bearer of good news, and then He sends the rain as His mercy. And what we were discussing actually on Sunday, I would like to basically continue that same topic of how these things are indeed great signs, and how I would like you to basically discuss the same points again, so our those people who are watching us, they can actually get to hear that as well. So Sultan, if you can actually start with the same point. Uh,
One point that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So one of the main points we were discussing in that ayah is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeatedly describes how he sends down the rain, and then it comes down and it comes to the dead earth and it gives it life again. And this is, and like this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this as an analogy to life after death, because back then the Quraysh, they were denying the akhirah. Basically, they were saying it is impossible that we die, we become dust, our bones become dust, that we ever will be resurrected again. How is it even possible? It's not possible. They did not have a belief in the akhirah. So Allah was telling them that, look, I have the power to bring the dead earth back to life when I pour the rain over it. So that is very easy for me. So do you not see how it's like that? It's easy for me that if I've created you first, I can bring you back. So that's one main point that I always get from these ayat that are talking about the rains coming down. It's actually a sign and a reminder that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of bringing everyone back, just like he brings back the vegetation from the dead earth.
Indeed, I mean, what we also discussed was basically that obviously now we have lots of ease of life, really. We don't have to travel, we don't have to go fetch water, alhamdulillah. But obviously back in the days, and still in many places, that is the case, that people consider rain as a form of life, really. For it to be raining, it's very important for basically the sustenance of life in those places, and people look forward to it. And when they see the change of winds, and they feel like obviously the weather is changed, it's quite a happy moment for those people, and obviously it supports their crops, their daily lives and everything, and basically trade. And further, we discussed that how obviously winds are still quite important for the maritime. But it's quite important factor of life on Earth. And Mubin bhai, I'll ask you to basically comment on these points. That then immediately after the rain, we discussed in the same verses, really, the immediately following verses, they discuss about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent his messengers as signs to the people as well. So what is the link between the sending of rain and sending of messengers? How are they both? I mean, obviously they are both signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but in what capacities do they serve their purpose?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We see the signs. These are the natural signs. We see the reference of rain and its advantages, and there are both advantages and disadvantages if we consider in terms of rain. And some places we got like is a rahmat from Allah. It's a blessing from Allah. So the reference of rain is to here, like when we were discussing, is to bring a focus of Allah's power and to affirm like this, and it brings a comparison of life and life after death also. So mostly like our attention is towards how this process is there, how this the process of the guidance from Allah through the prophets. So if we can, this helps us to distinguish between good and bad, so between like pure and impure. So the guidance from the prophet is compared to the movements of winds and the appearance of the rain and the clouds, and the life sustaining the raindrops. If we compare both of them, where think of like when we have a rainfall, it causes the dead earth to be, uh, it will bring a life into the earth, bring the life into the soil, I can say, and the hidden treasures of the earth will come out. For example, like when the farmer is growing a tree, like it's before that, like it was totally dead, and suddenly, like we see a seed which will came into a life, into existence. Uh, in a similar way, the teaching of prophets also brings to humanity, like we are nearly like a dead without the guidance, and the goodness, we lack goodness. So the prophet brings that guidance and bring life into us. And if we see this is the advantage that like the prophets which are bringing it bring us back to life. Whereas from rain also, if the rain can benefit in two ways. If you see if it's a fertile soil, the rain will benefit uh, from it. The soil will benefit from it, and we will see the plants will grow. Whereas like the disadvantage is that like when it falls to which the soil which is not fertile, we see that like the grass will come out, the unwanted or waste trees will come out. So, in the same way, when the prophets bring us a guidance, it will have both effects, both advantage and disadvantage from it. So, the advantage will be the people like uh, who take the guidance as it will benefit them. Whereas, like when we see like the guidance can be a disadvantage for some people whose intentions are like not good enough. So if the nature of that person is evil, so it won't benefit him. So in a similar way, the comparison, if we see of the fertile soil and the people with the clean heart, with the uh, pittiness in their hearts, it will have both the effects. So this is a comparison, I think, when we are comparing the rainfall or a wind, both have like the disadvantages and the and if our heart is wicked, like if we are wicked, it won't benefit, it will go for a waste. So the teaching of the prophets will go in a waste, like if our heart and if our inner our inner spirit is not good, so there is no point in this. So the rush the righteousness or the blessings of the prophet will only benefit uh, for us, like if we are clean from our heart. And this is the comparison, I think, more we can say about this.
Very good. And one point which we also came across was that obviously we just talked about how they both as uh, as a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another thing which was in relation to it was that basically they both complement each other. So the rain and every other thing on the face of this planet, and how the whole basically ecosystem is continuing, the day and night, even the creation of man and every single thing really. So they are the signs basically which are available all the time, and they are there to be noted. They are there to be seen really by the people, and obviously those who do see them and those who do think about them, they would surely look for some way of answering the questions which would obviously come to their minds. And that was the reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always sent his messengers and always basically sent the guidance through them to the people on earth, because it's like I said, they both complement each other, and it's not like they one or the other, they don't serve the same purpose, but indeed they do um, lead you to the creator, both in person and by way of obviously thinking and rationalizing, really. So Danvi, if you can comment on that basically how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has developed these all signs which are there throughout, and how he further sends his messengers to do the full job of conveying the message.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in numerous places in the Quran that, to reflect over the creation of the heavens and the earth, the alternation of the night and the day, and the fact that Allah has allowed ships to sail in the sea, right? And I think there was one analogy we were mentioning that if you put a car on a ship, right, it doesn't sink basically, but if you put that car in itself in the water, it will sink, such that Allah has given us knowledge to be able to travel through the sea. And He has made it such that we can actually carry loads across it. And even in the night, alteration of the night and the day, and this harmony in the way things run in the ecosystem, it shows that someone is in charge, someone has put this in there, this system. And there can only be one creator, one intelligent being behind it, because Allah says in the Quran that had there been more than one God or a creator, you would have seen a lot of chaos, because they would have competed with each other. And we see that that is not the case, that everything runs according to one system. It's not like, okay, one day we see the earth rotating one way, so the sun rising in the east and setting in the west, and the next day it's the other way around. You see, it's all running according to one system, with the seasons and the moon and the phases of the moon. So that in itself is the sign of an all-powerful being. And this is what the messengers, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent them, they would tell their people to reflect over these things, as Allah mentions in the Quran. So this is that's them sort of making rational arguments for there being a creator, and that creator being worthy of worship. And that's the guidance that they brought. And so for any intelligent person or rational person, they will see this and they will realize that if they reflect on it sincerely, that there is a creator, and that if that creator created this whole system, he didn't create it in vain just for us to be left to our own devices as to decide how to live our lives and things. There has to be some guidance that he sends down. And this guidance then comes in the form of the messengers. And then the messengers bring their evidences to show that they are indeed messengers, and that what they have is indeed revelation from Allah. And each messenger was given a sign. And the final messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his main sign and miracle is the Quran, right? So this is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does these things. And this is his sunnah, that he will send a messenger, and the messenger will bring evidence with him to prove that he is indeed a messenger and that what he is saying is true. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after that just tells the messengers that your job is only to convey the message. It is not for you to force people to believe or disbelieve. But then whoever believes, it is for his own benefit. And whoever does not believe, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no need of them. And then they have earned Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wrath. So that's the whole way this is sort of linked.
Indeed, I mean, when you say about those who turn away, really, if you use the same example of people, I mean, even these days, I mean, it's not just obviously back in those days. Even now, when we don't have rainfall for many days, we do get the hosepipe ban. So it's still quite important, water and its availability, because again, if it wasn't for the rain and how that water is soaked up by the earth, and then the underground rivers flow, and how water is then basically available throughout the world, then
وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. You know,
indeed,
as you're
it,
saying.
it is that everything is, made of water, and every life life is basically sustained. So basically, what I'm saying is nobody is there um, who would want to basically turn away from the rain itself. Nobody would. It wouldn't be something like, no, 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 I don't want rain. No. If it's raining, um, there wouldn't be anyone who would basically do something to not get benefit from it. Obviously, if it's causing any difficulties, then yes, people would take measures. But you wouldn't come across anybody who would say, no, I don't want to benefit from the rain. There wouldn't be anybody. So when we talk about, and it actually came to my mind for the first time. Normally, we um, we discuss and we understand that the word kufur is somebody who conceals, who basically hides. And honestly, that would mean that somebody who, after getting to know the truth, they deny it. Obviously, that's one way of explaining it. But kufr is also a form of, you know, or it also means ungratefulness. And just as I said that, you wouldn't find anybody who would want to stay away from the benefits which are, um, you know, taken through the rain. Then what we just discussed about the messengers, like for example, even in the present um, days, it if we look at the world, the whole situation is quite grim, and obviously there are lots of um, injustices, lots of unfair things happening all over the world. So imagine, obviously now it's a different case. There wouldn't be any prophets coming, but back in that time when the prophets used to come, and then obviously one prophet come, and then there's a break, obviously, and then basically the time period between one prophet to the other, you will always find people, who will feel sad about the things happening. When we, in terms of the moralities, in terms of the system of the world, in terms of basically what it's, it's again, it's in the human nature to feel sad about bad things happening around, injustices being done, and I mean, to a certain extent, people do also, uh, not completely, uh, they're not completely okay with the immoralities which do happen. Um, that's another thing. Nobody does anything about it, but it would always be, there will always be some people who would, basically not like the things which how the world is run, and in absence of a true guidance or a guide, really, they would feel really, lost. um, I mean, that's one of the reasons, that's how people actually find truth. They, when they feel completely lost about how things are happening, then obviously they start seeking the truth, and that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really showed them the right path. But what I'm saying is, that was the key reason that the messengers were sent. When the whole guidance was completely lost, or tampered and everything, and there was no way of really getting to the right path, and people would really feel lost. So that is like exactly why the messengers were sent, to guide people and to lead people to the truth. And I take that example and that example of rain, that when the earth is completely dead, it's thirsty for water. So when the rain comes, pretty much the whole environment, it celebrates. You know, it it is grateful for that blessing that yes, rain is here. The animals, the birds, everybody basically, they are grateful that finally, that the mercy is here. And that's exactly the same example of the prophets. When the people are completely lost and they are really looking for something, then indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the prophets as a mercy. So, Mubin bhai, if you can please, what I started with really, the word kufr, and how basically somebody who denies the prophets, they are indeed, they are uh, the deniers, but they are also much ungrateful to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sorry, Mubin bhai, I think your mic is mute. Some issue with it.
Yes, can you hear me now? Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, it's fine, it's fine.
Okay. So if you take into this, I was telling you about this, the message. If we see the righteous people when they receive the blessing from the prophet, and we see that there are good results, so they will utilize the fruits and we will see the goodness from them. And whereas the people like who deny and who try to be wicked, we can see that like their impurities will come out, as we have seen with the prophet Muhammad, when the people of Makkah, when they denied their habits, their methods were fully exposed. So totally, if we think this human society uh, itself, like it itself will benefit from rain in a similar way as the prophethood, the guidance of the prophets. So their impurities will be clean. So as uh, even think of like this message is totally this example or what we are discussing is of nature. Uh, for some people, it will be like the people who deny, they are stubborn and they are prejudiced, and they try to himself testify that like this is not a plan, like it's happening by itself, everything is happening by itself. Whereas the people who accepts, who benefits, they will think like, okay, this is a wise plan, it's a plan of someone who is controlling the power. So 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 bit so being a sensible and not sensible, we can imagine like that they will have their own assumptions and own acceptance. So the people who are sensible, they will think, okay, this is someone who is controlling it, and the message, the guidance is, okay, this is benefit for us. So from that example of air, sun, wind, water, and all earth, they will think, okay, it's a work of a one God who is the creator of uh, myself and the whole humanity and this whole earth. And this will lead him towards more towards like Tawheed, and he will accept, okay, this is my Lord, and he will try to give thanks to him. And the people who are denying this, they will be like thankless, they will be ungrateful. So it's all about like the thought. And if I go back to the same where like Allah doesn't want us from Allah doesn't want us uh, to lose our path, do bad things. That's why a guidance came in. Similar way, a dead earth receives the water, why, to bring a life in it. So the prophet's guidance is also a life for a human. So they will clean the soul. They will turn uh, to Allah Almighty, where we accept like oneness of God, and we try to take that blessing. So the both of them, like if we compare both of them, uh, a dead earth and a dead human. So a rain is coming to give a life to the earth, and for us is a guidance for the humans. So if we follow, we will be more in benefit, and while while we are benefiting and we are rejecting. So in a similar way, a dead soil will also benefit. It will give a good plants, good fruits. It will utilize the fertile soil. Will utilize it. So if we compare both of them, like the comparison goes hand in hand together. How in a similar way, the soil is accepting the benefit of the rain. A similar way, we will accept the guidance and we will obey and we will bow ourselves to our Creator. So by rejecting the false god and by accepting that, like, okay, this is my Creator, so this will show how we accept the trueness with the guidance Allah has sent to us.
I mean, the extent of being ungrateful is really, um, I mean, just one point really, that obviously humans are made from earth, they're made of clay. So it's really the same example which Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has given here. That just as the dead earth, it benefits, the dead souls and the dead hearts really, they should benefit. How the trees really celebrate, and how all the fields and every single flower is really grateful for every single drop of the water. And not only because people are ungrateful to their Lord by denying the truth, but they're also, especially in the times of the messengers, they were ungrateful to those incredible and beautiful people, those individuals who would basically live their lives to benefit the same people who would do anything to harm them. And you know, on many places in Quran, it is that the messengers do ask, and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala also says that, ask these people, do we even ask for any repayment from you, Lord? We don't. So it's the extent of ungratefulness that we all know. I mean, obviously we know more about the life and the stories and events of the life of Prophet Sallallahu, but every single messenger was always living for their people. They would always live to benefit others. And I'll just finish with one last example, that even when the Quraysh were on the night of Hijrah, when they were going to assassinate Prophet Sallallahu, even at that time, we all know that all their belongings and important things, they were kept as amana. They were still with Prophet Sallallahu, even though they were going to kill him. He still had their all the amana. So indeed, what sort of ungrateful people, really, and that just explains the whole concept of you know kufr, as in being ungrateful, as well as um, denying what their hearts do testify from inside. So, Jazakallah khair both for joining us this week. Change of schedule. Inshallah, we will continue every Thursday from now on. Days are obviously getting shorter, so we might have to play around with time here and then. Inshallah, I think Thursday will work best for all of us. And Sultan Bhai, you can just make dua.
Is Shams up there?
Abu is, I think, he's gone upstairs, maybe.
Okay, I'm saying it. Okay, that's fine. I'll do it then, inshallah. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته سبحان الله العظيم اللهم لك الحمد حتى ترضى ولك الحمد إذا رضيت ولك الحمد بعد رضاه اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معصيتك ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك من اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصاعب الدنيا ومتعنا اللهم بأسماعنا وأبصارنا وقواتنا أبدا ما بقيتنا واجعله الوارث منا واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا وانصرنا على من عادانا ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا إلى النار مصيرنا واجعل الجنة هي دارنا وقرارنا ولا تسلط علينا من لا يخافك فينا ولا يرحمنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين فاطر السماوات والأرض أنت ولينا في الدنيا والآخرة توفنا مسلما والحقنا بالصالحين ربنا توفنا وأنت راض عنا غير غضبان اللهم إنا نسألك العافية في الدنيا والآخرة اللهم اختم لنا بخير اللهم اختم لنا بخير اللهم اختم لنا بخير اللهم انصر المستضعفين في كل مكان اللهم كن معهم في فلسطين وكن معهم في سوريا وكن معهم في العراق وكن معهم في كشمير وكن معهم في الصين اللهم عليك بالظالمين اللهم عليك بهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك اللهم اقتلهم بددا وأحصهم عددا ولا تغادر منهم أحدا ربنا أرنا فيهم عجائب قدرتك واجعلهم عبرة للمعتبرين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصل اللهم وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
Jazakallah khair, both of you.
جزاك الله خير.
Much appreciate as always. Inshallah, we will join again
إن شاء
next
الله.
week. Till then, take care.
وعليكم
Assalamu
السلام.
alaikum.